What's going on, everybody? So, we got some crazy stuff today. The Jewish Rabbi Shmuley made a very disturbing post against Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and you, conservative Christians, and laid out yet again a new version of anti Semitism that exists in your mind, maybe even in your DNA, that you need to be aware of lest you be labeled an extremist and put into jail. Yes, that is precisely what the president of the World Jewish Congress is calling for. Not using speech or debate or ideas to fight those who don't agree with the Jewish religion, but law enforcement and jail time, as you're about to see. What is even more alarming about this and related is who President Trump just named as the next Federal Reserve chair. You're not going to believe this, or maybe you will. Also, Dan Bongino went on Fox News to explain just how terrible the Russian collusion hoax was. And if you just knew what really happened, what the deep state really tried to do to President Trump, you just wouldn't believe it. It's so dirty, as you're about to see. And finally, we have some new video that dropped that allegedly spotted the Tyler Robinson Dodge Challenger on campus after Charlie Kirk was killed that has people talking. We're looking to remain in the truth here. So I'm going to take you through whether this is actually the bombshell that it's being advertised as or not. We'll start there with that KSL live news footage. This is on the UVU campus right after Charlie was shot. I'm Zach Costello.
Live there on the campus of Utah Valley University. Dan, orient us as to where you are.
Yeah, pretty incredible scene out here as far as talking to students. But let me give you a little idea as to where we're at here. Many of you, of course, know where the UCCU Center is at. We're just north of it right here. You can see all the traffic here, people trying to get out of this location, traffic completely backed up, a lot of cops, a lot of officers from a variety of different agencies all out here trying to be able to kind of lock down the campus, of course. Trying to be able to kind of lock down the campus, of course. And we've been hearing from students all along here.
All right, so this video was posted by Project Constitution with this post stating that you can see that the Dodge Challenger matches the Tyler Robinson Challenger, exactly from the color, wheels, and tinted windows. And the car appears in a long line waiting to exit campus. And then he writes immediately after shots rang out. So if we go back to this feed from the KSL footage, let's get that back up here. So if we go to the 21-second mark here, you can see down in that right-hand corner, let's pause that. You can see down in that right-hand corner, the timestamp says 1:58. Okay, and Charlie was killed at 12:23 p.m. So this is over an hour and a half later. If this car was spotted immediately after shots rang out, that would be massive news because that puts Tyler Robinson in a different location than the shooter running off the roof. But an hour and a half later isn't telling us really anything helpful. This gives ammo and oxygen, I think, to the other side, claiming anyone who's questioning the mainstream narrative is a conspiracy theorist or a grifter. The alleged Tyler Robinson Dodge Challenger has been spotted in multiple places around Orem after the assassination took place. We know that Candace got Tyler Robinson at the Dairy Queen even later that afternoon or evening. What's more interesting to me are those instances that the Dodge Challenger was spotted and looks to be working with or coordinating with other vehicles. Also, and interestingly, George Zinn, as you can see right here, otherwise known as Decoy Boy, who claimed to have shot Charlie Kirk at the UVU scene just 2 minutes after his assassination, was just sentenced to up to 15 years in prison for obstructing justice and 2 counts possession of child pornography. Zinn was said, as you can see here, to have told hospital staff that he was paid to cause a distraction to say that he shot Charlie. But we never found out who he was supposedly paid by. And that's a post by Diligent Dennison. Quick and quiet conviction for George Zinn. Quick and quiet death penalty for Tyler Robinson. And you shut your mouth asking any questions about this being something bigger, okay? You don't get the full answers about the Charlie Kirk assassination, the Epstein files, or the Russian collusion hoax, which apparently, according to Dan Bongino, is one of the most disgusting and evil things that has ever happened to our country. Listen to what he had to say on Sean Hannity. Watch.
I was reading through some stuff that you can only read in the office, and it just involved basically the collusion hoax, Crossfire Hurricane, as it went by, and the various other spinoffs. And when you read from the inside, Sean, when you see the details of what these just absolute animals did to President Trump, and the barriers that broke down and the guardrails, it was, I mean, I'm not shocked often, Sean. I'm really not. I'm not, again, I'm not trying to put on some faux set of armor. I'm just not shocked often. I've lived 1,000 lifetimes between the Secret Service, the NYPD, running for office, TV shows, and all this other stuff. Just reading through it and seeing it in detail for the first time all put together, you can run a republic like this. You can't. Wow. You absolutely cannot. It was just stunning how all these guardrails broke down at the exact same time, and nobody there. Thank God there was it was and still is a long-ranging investigation into this stuff, because it's just frightening how no one thought to speak up and say, hey, man, not only is this wrong, this is like demonic. This is evil stuff.
So Bongino's getting a lot of pushback online because at this point, we all know how bad things are. We know how entrenched the deep state is. We know there is fraud and waste of taxpayer dollars running rampant. We know our own government utilizes networks of organizations and intelligence agencies to monitor and censor and infringe on our First Amendment rights. We know the elites and those in power are held to a different standard than the rest of us, the people. We know, Dan, and a big reason that the Trump administration was elected. And Dan, you of all people should know this because you were touting it on your podcast prior to you going into the FBI. The whole point was so they could go in and fight this and root it out and get the government working back on behalf of the American people. So for Dan Bongino, who was the deputy director of the FBI, to sit there and tell us how bad it was, like Pam Bondi telling us how bad those Epstein files were on her desk. Well, apparently 3.5 million of those pages were actually just released today. I haven't had a chance to take a look at them. But even so, we have nothing to show for it as far as real accountability, actual justice. This is just pandering at this point. Dan is pushing back on social media against anyone who is criticizing him. He's calling everybody doomers who just and we just don't have a clue. Look, the Trump administration has done some good things, but they've come up short also in many important areas. And we can't just pretend like that doesn't exist. Brushing the concerns that many people have under the rug and pretending that everything is just all good is not a smart political strategy. One of the things that the Trump administration seems particularly blinded by is their unwavering commitment to the Zionist and pro-Israel lobby. President Trump announced, and I knew this was a problem as soon as I saw Mark Levin sharing it, and he was so excited about it, red flag, that he is nominating Kevin Warsh to be the chairman of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. He goes on to talk about Kevin Warsh's accomplishments and promises that he will do such a great job for Americans. All Americans? Are we sure about that? You guys know what the Federal Reserve Chair has the power over, right? Senator Tim Scott here provides us with some important insights. The Federal Reserve's decisions touch every American household, from mortgage rates to retirement savings. And the President of the United States has been clear that bringing accountability and credibility to the Federal Reserve is a priority. His nomination of Kevin Warsh reflects that focus. As a former Federal Reserve governor, Kevin has a deep knowledge of markets and monetary policy that will be essential in his role. Federal Reserve, he goes on to say, independence remains paramount. Okay, speaking of that independence, Kevin Marsh is the son-in-law of Ronald Lauder, who is the billionaire and president of the World Jewish Congress, who advocates for hate mongers of the Jewish religion to be imprisoned for a long time. Listen to what he had to say.
World leaders, all politicians must lead in this effort. Words are not enough. Political speeches are not enough. Laws must be passed, severe, tough, real laws that will put these hate mongers away in prison for a long time.
So if a person legitimately assaults or blatantly discriminates against someone because they are Jewish, that's anti-Semitism. If anybody does the same to a Christian, a Muslim, white or black person, Hispanic, etc., this is wrong and against the law and punishable by law. The definition, though, of anti-Semitism is spreading to cover disagreement with or voicing opposition to the Jewish religion. Tucker exploring other options to allies in the Middle East is now called anti-Semitic. Questioning the intentions of the Israeli government is now anti-Semitic. And wielding this now far-reaching term, we have organizations like the World Jewish Congress, who you just heard from, the ADL, which we heard from a couple weeks ago, and TikTok calling for and cracking down on the rights of any individual who does not just bow and allow politically active and motivated Jewish people or organizations to force their agenda on everybody else. This is what Zionism is doing. It is forcing the American taxpayer to fund a religious belief. Jewish and Christian Zionists are all over American politics and media, using our money to fund their religious agenda. It gets even worse, though. This problem that you have, not being Jewish, might not be your fault. It might just be something that you're born with. And we'll get to that from Rabbi Shmuley and the attack that he levied on Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and you here in a minute after this brief break from our sponsor. To be aware that the ground is moving out from under your feet. On January 28, 2026, the US dollar quietly crossed the line that most Americans won't recognize until it's far too late. After a violent global sell-off, our currency has cratered to its weakest level in 4 years. This isn't just another bad market day. This is a financial ambush. We are witnessing a global scorched earth takedown of the American economy. The nightmare is here. The system is being hollowed out by global saboteurs so the radicals can seize power, leaving patriots like you to pay the price with your life's work. At the same time, the green light has been given to sacrifice your purchasing power. As the dollar's decline is brushed off as good for business, the markets have heard the message clearly. Your hard-earned savings are being sacrificed to a failing paper system. With national debt now screaming past $38 trillion and endless spending, faith in the dollar is eroding, creating a blueprint for national surrender and total digital dependence. History shows that when a reserve currency enters this phase, the people holding paper are the last ones protected. While the media debates narratives, central banks are doing something very different. they are hoarding physical gold at record levels. Gold is the only asset that remains independent of banks, governments, and the off switch of the administrative state. I've partnered with Genesis Gold to get you a critical new briefing titled The Dollar Takedown Survival Guide, Defending Your Family and Wealth from the Globalist Siege. This intelligence report is essential for anyone who values truth, faith, and American sovereignty. It reveals why moving a portion of your savings into physical gold is the only safe ground left before the next market freeze. Don't wait for the bank doors to lock. Visit CostelloGold.com today and claim your free copy while supplies last. Today's decline was the largest one-day drop in nearly a year. Secure your wealth in a territory that they can't touch. That's CostelloGold.com for your immediate dying dollar defense. All right, guys, let's get back into it. And I want to say something real quick. If you leave me a super chat, I will get to it 100%. I'm going to get to all super chats here at the end of this episode. Keep that in mind. All right, so I had to watch this Rabbi Shmuley video a couple times to grasp how disturbing what he was saying here actually was. At the end of this, he asked his audience to rate which type of anti-Semite Candace and Tucker Carlson are. Let me know how you evaluate yourself. Or maybe you just can't control it because it's genetic. Watch this.
Everyone, people ask me all the time, Shmuley, when do you, Rabbi Shmuley, go hard against anti-Semites, racists, bigots, and when do you try to change them? And a lot of people even say to me, you know what, we've seen a marked change in your rhetoric, that you become more aggressive towards the haters. Once upon a time, you tried to reason with them, to change them. Yeah, there's probably some truth to that. I think since October 7th, we've all changed because we've begun to see the world's unreasonable, that hatred of the Jews is almost irrational. I know so many Jews who believe that anti-Semitism is innate, that it's something in almost the Gentile DNA. I don't subscribe to that theory. There is a Talmudic passage that says something along those lines. Halacha b'yedua shesoneh Esav liYaakov. It's a well-known axiom of faith, an undeniable fact that Esau hates Jacob, that the Gentile nations hate the Jewish people. But remember, that's not a Jewish legal doctrine. It's a Talmudic thought. I don't believe that there's a strand of DNA in the non-Jewish nations that hates Jews. God forbid. Look how many friends we have all over the world. 70% of Americans love Israel much more than the fraudulent terrorist Hamas cause. Europe's the opposite. For 2,000 years, I don't know, maybe there's some weird European gene, I hope not, where they don't seem to like us very much. But this is why my rhetoric has changed, and this is what you should think about in terms of reasoning with someone who hates our guts and trying to change them versus fighting them. There is ideological anti-Semitism, where people, it's ingrained in their ideology. Like for 2,000 years, Christianity was about replacement theology, that the Christians replaced the Jews. The Jews killed Jesus, which is a lie. I wrote a whole book about that called Kosher Jesus, showing historically. Or they rejected Jesus, the divinity of Jesus. Therefore, we hate them. That's ideological anti-Semitism. Thank God most of Christianity, including Catholicism, has abandoned that. Ideological anti-Semitism is white supremacy, Nazis. Jews are subhuman. It's ideological. No matter how much the anti-Semite pays in price, like Hitler during the war, using his trains to ship Jews to Auschwitz instead of using his trains to give food to his troops in Stalingrad, people will self-destruct because it's ideological. They can't control it. Transactional anti-Semitism, by contrast, is where someone really doesn't hate Jews. They're doing it for clicks. They're doing it for money. In some ways, it's worse. It means they're a whore and a prostitute. But they might be able to be changed. Now, Kanye West is a big question. I'd like all of you, instead of my opining on this, I want you to give me in the comments over the following people: Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, Kanye West. Which is ideological, which is transactional?
This is a direct quote. I know so many Jews who believe that anti-Semitism is innate, that it's something in the Gentile DNA. And then he says, I don't ascribe to that theory. And then he goes on to cite the exact passage in a different language. And he then says, well, maybe the ones in Europe. What form of anti-Christianism is this called? Then comes the different manifestations of anti-Semitism: ideological and transactional. Transactional is redeemable because these guys are just doing it for clicks. Ideological, this is the bad type. It's ingrained in your ideology. Like, for the 2,000 years, which he literally said, Christians believed in replacement theology, which is ideological anti-Semitism. That's orthodox, original Christian belief for almost 2,000 years, which is called not replacement theology, but supersessionism, by the way, that Christ fulfilled the Jewish religion, and the church that Christ established supersedes the old law, which is the Jewish religion, and that the church, Christianity, is the continuance of God's covenant and promises. And yes, we do believe that the Jews rejected Christ because they did. This is a historical fact. And do you guys see this now? Do you see it? They are just saying this right out in the open. You are an anti-Semite. You have something wrong with your brain. No, your DNA, if you believe this. And then rewind back and see how they leverage the power structures to crack down and enforce all of it. Conservative Christians, we still believe this. We believe in supersessionism. In fact, about 2%, only 2% of worldwide Christians believe in Zionism. So 98% of Christians are anti-Semite. You guys see how bad this is getting yet? All right. Let me get to some of your guys' comments here. Oh, man. This stuff is driving me nuts right now, you guys. I mean, this is seriously dangerous. I really believe this to be, I'm really worried. I'm really worried for Christians that this is going to be one of the largest attacks on our rights, especially here in America, and one of the largest crackdowns of free speech and censorship that we've perhaps ever seen in American history. History is littered, especially the 20th century, with Christian persecution specifically. It's not talked about enough. We just had the Holocaust Remembrance Day. As terrible as the Holocaust was for Jews, 6 million, around that number, were murdered by the Nazis in concentration camps. From the period of 1910 to 1980, from the Bolshevik Revolution through the Soviet Union till its collapse, 55 million Christians were killed for their faith. Okay? We were not given a state for protection, a specific state where we have a religious state that's biblically backed. We don't have those things. So, you know, I mean, so who's going to protect us? So who's going to protect us? If not for America, which was a country built on the First Amendment of freedom of religion and free speech, who is going to protect us if it's not going to be America? Because this infiltration that we're seeing right now is dangerous for Christians. It's dangerous for our rights, our right to practice our religion, to talk about our religion and our beliefs, which that man right there is calling anti-Semitism, which is then punishable by law, and they leverage all the power structures that they have their hands on and access to, which is big time power. It's big time power. It's big time media to crack down on us. Rabbi Shmuley just admitted right there that 2,000 years of original Christian belief, conservative Christianity. Guys, this is what it means to be a conservative Christian. A conservative Christian is one that believes in traditional Christianity. From the time of Jesus, through the apostles, through the church fathers, even through the Protestant Reformation, even the Lutherans believe in hard supersessionism. That's 1,600 years of Christian belief, has believed in supersessionism, which Rabbi Shmuley just said is anti-Semitic. And we see this crackdown. The ADL reports to the FBI. The ADL has networks of lawyers and attorneys that they send these cases out to see if an attorney will pick it up to wage lawfare against that individual or that organization, whoever it may be. The ADL labeled the Charlie Kirk-led Turning Point USA in his last months of life an extremist organization because of Charlie's shifting views. They send it out to these lawyers. They send it to the FBI. And then we hear Pam Bondi, who can't deliver anything from an accountability standpoint on behalf of the American people, the Christian American people. We have her bragging at whatever Jewish council it was, how tough she's been on combating anti-Semitism on college campuses. She's delivering there. Where's she at everywhere else? I'm frustrated. I'm really frustrated. This is why I've been talking about that organization. I just think we have to do a better job standing up for ourselves, fighting for ourselves, advocating for ourselves and our values. Conservative Christians, from a conservative Christian standpoint. This type of attack from Rabbi Shmuley, to me, is completely unacceptable. We say one little teeny tiny thing about Israel or Zionism. The TikTok, new U.S. CEO of TikTok, Adam Presser, says if you use the term Zionism in a negative sense, you're going to be banned. You're going to be punished on TikTok. What is that? What is that? What did we just listen to right there? That's allowed? It's in the Gentile DNA? Are you kidding me? I see a super chat here. Let me bring this up. Where is it? Yeah, appreciate the support, Susie. Really appreciate that. Just want to say thank you. Yeah, guys, like I said yesterday, one of the best ways to support the channel and to support this movement right now is to just donate through here, is to, engage with me here in the super chats. I want to engage with you all. It's the best way to do it. It's the best way to do it. YouTube makes it pretty easy. And also, I'm learning that the algorithm really likes when you likes the super chat. So in any case, I really appreciate that, Susie. Thank you for the donation. Saved by Grace. Did he call us Gentiles? Yeah, I believe he did. Christ is king. Pray. Absolutely and 100%. Yeah, the whole Christ is king thing, that is kind of, one of the beginnings to all of this. When they tried to say that Christ is king is anti-Semitic. After Candace Owens parted ways with the Daily Wire, and she got into that spat with Ben Shapiro on X, she said Christ is king. And they considered that an anti-Semitic shot taken at Ben Shapiro. Here's what it comes down to, guys. Guess what? When you say Christ is king, Jesus Kyrios, Jesus is Lord. This was the battle cry of early Christianity. It was a shot in the face, figuratively speaking. It was a political statement. It was a monarchy statement. Jesus is Lord. Jesus is king. The Romans believed that Caesar was Lord. They believed that Caesar was king. When Christians were saying it, they were challenging the Roman authorities at the time. And they were also challenging the Jewish authorities who, unlike what Rabbi Shmuley believes that they did, who rejected Christ at the time, and they conspired, the politically connected Jews at the time conspired with Roman authorities in Jerusalem the Sanhedrin, Jewish authorities, conspired with Pontius Pilate, Roman authority, Roman governor, to have Christ crucified. I don't for me to say that is called anti-Semitic. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? Because that is literally taken straight from the New Testament. That's taken straight from the Gospels. And then if you go on to read Acts of the Apostles is the apostles fighting tooth and nail to protect themselves from the Jews. It's like they were always hiding in fear of the Jews. How many times have we read that? Paul himself, before he encountered Christ and converted, was killing Jews. He admits as much in all of his letters. Read Acts of the Apostles again, and you see that it is a constant fight and struggle against the Jews who were persecuting this group of early Christians for accepting that Jesus, who they had just killed, was the Messiah. This is Christian history, guys. This is freaking Christian history. All right? Which apparently makes us now, in our modern day, here we are in our modern day, original Christian belief, conservative Christian belief, anti-Semitic. Unbelievable. Somewhere in VA, somewhere in WA, Washington, I think. Thank you very much. That's a very generous donation. That's huge, man. Or man or woman. I'm sorry. I say man sometimes just generally, kind of just how I talk. Some bro talk, I guess. Thank you, though, so much for that donation. I really appreciate that. That's huge. Let's see. Let's keep going. GV Nikki, thank you for that. I appreciate that. We are with you. I appreciate it. I mean, we all got to stay together, you guys. I mean, this is, we've got to organize. We've got to organize so that we can fight this. I think that's the only way. The only way that we can go about this. I mean, give them credit. Give them credit. Look, as terrible as the Holocaust was, and from the atrocity that it was and the trauma they experienced from it, which is rightfully so. I mean, the Holocaust was terrible. What the Nazis did to the Jews was terrible. I don't argue with that. But what they have done to organize and infiltrate the levers of power, government, media, politics, etc., is impressive. Honestly, it's impressive. I think conservative Christians, we need to take note, and we need to organize and go about building ourselves up and doing the same. We need to do what it takes to protect ourselves and to advocate effectively for our values and for our beliefs and for the church. And when I say the church, what I mean specifically is Christendom. What I mean is that Orthodox conservative Christian church. Okay? I'm not going to be super exclusive with it. I'm happy to debate over differences in doctrine. I have no problem with that. I don't see that as the biggest threat to us right now. We need to unite as conservative Christians and fight for our church and fight for our values, which are being attacked by the Zionist and pro-Israel lobby, as we've been talking about here, but also by the secular left. And I think that's important to say. It's important to say that because secular governments have been very brutal to Christians as well, you guys. The Soviet Union wanted Christianity out. 55 million Christians killed for their faith in the Soviet Union. Alexander Solzhenitsyn writes about it a lot. That's very important history for us to remember. Secular states are not friendly to Christians as well. Tyrants are not friendly to Christians. Tyrannical religions are not friendly to Christians. Why? We cannot be controlled. We are controlled only by God, Christ, the truth. We are not controlled by the secular state. I attribute this to me being on the right side of history when it comes to COVID. I think a rooted Christian is always on the right side of history. I think it keeps you on the right side of history. Remaining in Christ, remaining on the vine, keeps you on the right side of history. It keeps you making right decisions every day of your life. This isn't some like kind of pie in the sky religious, wishy-washy. I believe in this, kind of esoteric type of belief system. No, like this is actually like, this keeps us in reality, in truth, which protects us and defends us against all of the things of the world, the enemy seeking to destroy us, which is the world, the flesh, and the devil. Let's keep going. I'm just hot today. I really am. Like I'm pissed, to be honest with you. That's why I really am just, I seriously am probably going to start that organization I've been talking about this week. Scotty Gesso, appreciate that. It's a pleasure to hear you talk, brother. Only truth can change our reality. Only truth can change our reality. Truth aligns us with reality. Truth is reality. When you tell the truth, you are referring to reality and how it played out in real time. A lie is a distortion of reality. One of my favorite lines from any song, which I think is just incredibly deep, is from Mumford & Sons in the song called The Cave. He gets to the point where he says, "Let me at the truth, which will refresh my broken mind." We live in a world where everybody's minds are broken, distorted, possessed by delusion, struggling. The truth sets us right. The truth aligns us with reality, and this heals us. Let me at the truth, which will refresh, heal my broken mind. The truth is powerful. It's powerful, and it's healing, and it heals us as individuals, and it heals us as a nation. Speaking of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, which I think is really important, I think Jordan Peterson, Orthodox Jordan Peterson, original Jordan Peterson stuff, second to none. I'll stand by that. I'll stand by that. Maybe the Zionists have gotten to him in his old age. Original Jordan Peterson, though, you're not going to, it shaped me. It formed me. I know it did a lot of men. One person, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, one person that's willing to stand for the truth can save a society. It's incredibly profound. Good stuff. All right, let me keep going here. Let me make sure I've gotten to all of these. Yeah, I got to that one. We're with you. I got to all of them. Okay. All right, guys. That's going to be it for today. I got to go. I hope you all have a great weekend. Check out the merch store at zachcostello.com to get your One Nation Under God hoodie, hats, or your God First hoodie, hats, or set apart. Set apart means holy. So, I'm trying to make some cool gear that's also Christian themed and keeps us on mission here. Catching that last comment, big snow coming. I actually see that, which is crazy because I've literally got, I've got sheets of literally ice snow sitting at my house right now, and we've got more coming, which is crazy. Just going to pile onto there. But in any case, I hope you guys have a great weekend. I will see you guys here next week. See ya.